What is good? Welcome back to the Vanflip podcast. This week I am joined with Sammy and Zach of New Orleans-based black and death metal, black metal, sludgecore, death doom band, long-running band Goatwhore. Welcome to the show, guys.
Good to be here.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, awesome. You guys have been around for a long period of time, almost as long, well, a little bit longer than Lambgoat has been around. You guys started in '97, and Sammy, you were a part of that. Zach, you came a handful of years later, but you've been there for the bulk run of the band. So you guys just did your 10th, 12th album, right? Or somewhere in there. Eighth. I was close.
Almost there.
All right. Close. You got that wrong. The interview is fucking over.
Hey, that wouldn't be the first time, unfortunately, Sammy. I've gotten something wrong right off the top. But what I don't have wrong is you guys did actually see like a lot of good success when you originally released it, or you still are seeing success, but you guys had some Billboard success that first week or two that you guys released the record. How was that for you guys?
Oh man, it was great. We had a big parade down the street, and they did a steak dinner for us at a Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. No.
Yeah, it's funny, man, because who knows what those numbers really mean these days, especially. I mean,
yeah, exactly.
Things are changing so much, and yeah, last time we put out a record was 5 years ago. So, who really knows what the numbers mean? But hey, man, I don't know. It's all good. It's cool.
I mean, I've been doing this shit for a long time, and I still don't know what those numbers mean.
Yeah.
Seems like every three years there's like a different measuring post. You know what I mean? Like, but yeah, either way, it's cool. It's just
it was like a couple. It was like a couple of years ago. It was like first week album sales was the big thing. Then now it's the charting thing. I guess means something again. I guess charting meant something back in like the 60s and 70s and 80s, and then that kind of disappeared in the 90s. Mm-hmm. And then it was the whole first week album sales was a big thing. Then now it's charting again. I don't know, man. Yeah. If you tell me it's a good thing, I guess it's a good thing.
I don't necessarily know if it's a good thing, but we post about it, so it can't be a bad thing, right? Like it's got to be good. It's got to be good. You guys are getting accolades somewhere, somehow.
Well, exactly. You know what they say. Exactly. There's no such thing as bad publicity.
This is true. That's true, Sammy. But you guys, again, whether or not it means anything or it doesn't, you guys had some chart success, whether your album streams or CD sales with your digital sales mashed together made enough to do something. It's still good for, metal in general that you're on the list.
Exactly.
Yeah, at least
playing, man.
At least we're on someone's list. Yeah.
Do you guys, speaking of obviously charting and all that stuff doesn't really necessarily matter to you, but when you guys are planning out an album, do you kind of plan out when in the year you want to maybe release it? Because obviously sometimes during the year there's more competition, whether it be within the same genre, the same industry, or a completely different genre altogether. Do you guys ever think that or take that into consideration?
Not really. When it's done, it's done, and we try to get in the studio as soon as possible. But I know exactly what you're talking about, and sometimes we plan ahead when it's like, okay, the album's going to be done. And it's like we're planning on releasing it. Let's say, let's give a great example, February 14th, Valentine's Day. We're going to release it on Valentine's Day. But then let's say there's another big release that's the same day, then we might hold it back a week or two just to make sure it doesn't get buried completely, because there's so many bands and so many albums coming out that you have to kind of be aware of that,
Mm-hmm.
But it all depends on who we have to go up against.
Who are some people that you don't like going up against, if that's the issue?
Behemoth is one that you don't want to go up against. This one is Goatwhore. Cannibal Corpse is a big one. I think that not to talk shit on anybody or anything, but we had it pretty easy with our release date on October the 7th. I mean, the big one that we went up against was Lamb of God, and not to talk bad about Lamb of God, but Lamb of God's fans and our fans are completely on different planets. You know what I'm
Yeah, there's
saying?
different styles of metal and stuff like that altogether for sure. I definitely can agree to that.
Yeah, because I mean, if we go up against, like, let's say Cannibal Corpse released their new record the same day we released our record, we're kind of tied into that thing a little bit, so it would kind of be detrimental to us. But yeah,
Yeah, I
we
get
had
that.
yeah, but exactly like you're saying, it takes a little bit of planning sometimes, but you have to be aware of it, basically.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
leave that up to Metal Lay, man.
yeah, this is something that I was thinking about because in the last couple of weeks here we have posted a couple more of those like Billboard chart appearances by bands within our little wheelhouse here in Lambgoat. So it's I see later on in the year, obviously, as far as like November and December starts coming around, you don't see as many like new album releases, and that's obviously because of competition with just everyone buying everything else and stuff. But in my head, it's also like, well, if you were like the one band to put something out within that time frame, you don't have a total lot of other band competition, but you have competition for other people's, other things pulling their dollars away from other people. So I see
Sure.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So back to Angels Hung from the Arches of Heaven.
Strike two, motherfucker. Strike motherfucking two.
Let's talk about the new album. Let's talk about the new album. The imagery on the album is very, very unique. Do you guys have any what it means, what it portrays, how it ties in with the eighth record?
Well, I'm just gonna give you one hint. Okay. I don't know if you or any of the viewers out there are very familiar with a lot of occult stuff or anything, but the Ten of Swords going into the Raven, it definitely means something. I'm not going to tell you what it is. You have to figure it out on your own. But to look up the Ten of Swords, Ten of Swords in the Tarot is not a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to put that little bug in your ear. So I like to leave it up to everybody to kind of interpret it their own way.
I get you. Yeah, to take it as they see it or however they take it in. I'll be googling that later, so I'm sure our listeners will also be doing that as well. What do you guys think led to a lot of the success with this particular album? Was it the 5-year gap that you had in the last album with COVID and everyone just being a little amped up? As we like to call it, with the last couple of years, people are more riled up and upset, I guess. Do you think that had anything to do with it, or did you have like something significant that you guys put into the albums per se?
I think it might be a combination of probably all of that a little bit. I've noticed since we got back on the road starting this spring, that people are just really enthusiastic across the board just to be out of the house and be able to go to shows, and then just to see the world kind of back to where it was. So I think that's a big part of it. And I think metal is in general is kind of on an upswing, and a lot of bands out there are just kicking ass right now. So, and then also the 5-year gap that people were just kind of hungry for it, and it kind of built the demand, and I guess the material stands up. People like it. It's some strong collection of songs. So I think it's a combination of all that. What do you think, Sammy?
Yeah, I completely agree. I was about to, if you wouldn't have answered that question like that, I would have probably answered it exactly like you did. But yes, I think it's a combination of the whole thing of everybody just being locked up and pent up and ready to just go wild, and the 5 years that we didn't put the record out, definitely, I'm just happy that no one forgot about us in those 5 years, because you know how it is nowadays. You got to roll with it, or you're gonna get rolled over.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think just Zach nailed it on the head. It's a combination of all those situations that kind of equaled out to where we are now, and how everybody's reacting to the record. And plus, the record's all right.
Pretty good.
As a whole,
pretty good.
yeah, it's okay.
Pretty good. It's pretty good. You were saying something. You kind of shared a little light about like if you're not like active or if you're not like out in the public eye, you kind of you could be forgotten. As a band that's been around for over 20 years and who kind of pushed their way in and elbowed their way in without the use of like social media and the internet, do you find it like annoying to deal with all that social media stuff or having to do any of that? Like, do you guys do that, or do you let other people handle it, or?
No, I like it. You know, I have my own Instagram page that I do a lot of stuff on. I'm constantly posting reels, and I'm going live on Sundays sometimes and just taking fans' questions if they want to come in and tune in and watch, you know. And, you know, it started off for me personally for my social media was that I just wanted to show off pictures of my guitars.
Hmm.
And then it just kind of spiraled out of control that there was all these, you know, fans that started following me and started, you know, why don't you do a live every now and then and take some of our questions? And it kind of blew up. But as far as the band goes, it's a necessary evil nowadays. You know, it's not like it was back in the day where, you know, you put out a record and you go pick up a magazine or several magazines that came out every month and you had your band's flyer in the magazine. That, you know, those days are over. So, you know, basically social media is our new like Metal Maniacs magazine, you know?
Right. Do you find it harder or easier than those times to get to for yourself and other people, if you have an opinion on other people's stuff?
I don't think it's as hard as everybody thinks it is. It's just a matter of being busy with that stuff and being active on the social media. Because I mean, the bands that are being successful with that are really, really active with that. You know, they're constantly posting stuff like 2 or 3, 4 times a day, you know. And, you know, as far as we go, you know, we don't like to oversaturate it. That's way when we hit somebody with a big bomb of something that comes out, it's like, oh shit, they posted this, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we try not to flood the whole thing with just constant, you know, nonsense. You know, what did Zach have for the lunch today? You know, or some shit
Yeah.
like that. You know,
You got to leave some mystique in there, I think. I mean, there's a point where I think with the social media thing, you can kind of overexpose or kind of out where you're welcome in a way. With I don't know. I think for a band like us, there's certain things that you got to. I don't want to call it mystique, but something along those lines of people don't need to see what I had for lunch. You know what I mean? People don't care about that.
exactly. It's just like Zach said, just a lot of people and a lot of bands just post like unnecessary shit. You know, basically.
Yeah, I get that. Do you find that those bands that do post the unnecessary shit, or the ones that are really working their social media, whether they're doing 5 reels a day or something ungodly like that, do you think that that's bringing in the what do you would call it, the proper demographic for that band, maybe, or exposing new people to stuff? Or because obviously when you're in the algorithm world, you might not be touching anybody that listens to Goatwhore or listens to this band or that band that the band's posting. So
True.
you have a very, you have an opportunity to touch somebody, but is it worth touching that person because it may be completely.
I think it comes down to maybe your personality too, and maybe what kind of band you are, and maybe if you have that kind of more social, playful attitude about your band or something. But basically, I think maybe individual personality. I'm not a person that typically just posts every day just on my own in general. So when it comes to band stuff, I only really, if there's something to say, I'll say it, but I'm not going to go out of my way to, just throw something out there. But to each their own, man. Everybody's got their own thing going on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like you were saying, it's almost like a double-edged sword the way you were explaining, because if you're posting a lot of stuff and you're reaching all these people, are you really reaching the right audience? I know what you're saying exactly, but it's a double-edged sword. It could explode in your face or it could work in your favor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's one of those things where like because over here at Lambgoat, we there's a finite amount of people that we can touch in general because only a finite amount of people listen to all these types of music, right? So how do we grow that audience? And that's what we have internal talks here all the time about. But it's very difficult to not be cheesy, but also do quality. Give them quality, but not be like doing TikTok dances or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Let's not get into that.
Oh, why? Have you guys had some failed TikTok dances on the Goatwhore
No,
TikTok?
no, it's just, dude. It's every time I open up fucking Instagram, it's like some. I'm not even gonna. No, I'm just gonna shut up while I'm ahead.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna shut up while I'm ahead,
It
man.
wouldn't be there if you weren't looking at it, though. That's the thing.
true.
If a tree falls in the forest without you being there, would you hear it? If there's a girl with a big butt dancing on TikTok, shaking her butt, and you didn't see it, would you have saw it? No.
When
I
I
don't
close
know.
my eyes, man, I don't see any of it.
I
I
just
may,
listened to it.
I may be a little bummed out if I did see it, depending on who the person was. But are all you guys still based in New Orleans or around in Louisiana, or do you guys live all over these days?
Oh, the band is definitely based in New Orleans. Sammy lives in New Orleans, and Ben lives there too as well. I live in Phoenix currently, and our TA lives in Austin. So we all get together when it's time, and it kind of works out like that.
Cool. Does that hinder or help like your writing processes and stuff like that? Like, is it easier to work apart or is it easier to work together?
Well, I mean, it's definitely harder to work apart, but we have a system to where when we do get together, we don't waste any time. You know what I'm saying? Like when we get together, it's time to get down to business.
Yeah. Yeah, we even when when we're writing, before we come into town, like even like way before, we'll have an objective, like Sammy will have material ideas already presented and it'll be learned and we'll show up ready to go, So yeah, we don't, like you said, we don't waste any time.
Interesting. Um, you guys are home now, but you were on tour earlier in the year, right? During the record.
Yeah.
Yeah, before the record, yeah, we I think we did
Oh,
we started in like late March. We did what was it, like 50 something shows, and we're here, yeah, they into a tour with Guar, and then we did a co-headliner with Incantation, like slightly right before the record came out. So
And how's it feel being back on the road? Obviously, because you guys took quite some time off as well as everyone else did.
Oh, it felt amazing. It felt like I went back home. I was going away from home, but it felt like I went back home.
Right.
If that makes any sense.
No, yeah. You're going back to your life that you lead on a day-to-day basis, but technically it's your home, but not your domicile.
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
yeah, it was kind of surreal, man. It was just it didn't feel real at first, because there was so much uncertainty beforehand during the whole pandemic thing, or like, are we going to be able to do this again? So when the time came, there was just this surreal feeling, and then also like just the first week of being back on the road, it's just getting used to the body and mind acclimated to being back on the road, because it was such a foreign environment.
How difficult is that? Because obviously you're sedentary for such a long period of time over the pandemic, and obviously like for touring musicians, you don't get a lot of time set put. Like you don't get to stay put a lot of the time when your financial stuff is wrapped around in touring. So like how is it getting back into the swing of things, and how annoyed were you by other people and by other band members and things like that? Because obviously you guys had to like push each other's buttons. It's either not it's for fun or just by accident.
I think it was kind of like riding a bike, it comes back pretty quick, but I think, oh man, just acclimating to that routine again, I think that was, it's, a few days to a week, and then you're on track. But yeah, and then getting feeling the little different pains that come and go, like, oh, I remember this feeling, and you just kind of work through it. But yeah, the first week, as with any tour, but yeah, after about a year and a half, 2 years off, you definitely noticed it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a matter of I think the biggest thing to me is a matter of just trying to get rest. That's the thing that really is the whole sleeping thing is really what fucks with me the most on tour, because 9 times out of 10 we're not in a bed, we're in a van sleeping. So after the first week you're fine. But it's that first week you're like, man, why does my fucking arm hurt? Oh wait, I slept on a fucking band bench that was like bouncing around a fucking road all night. But after, like I said, after the first week, it's like, you're good. It's all
Yeah.
good. No more pain. Everything is fine.
You get used to those double seat belts digging into your side on the
Oh,
back bench.
it's
Yeah.
great. I love it.
Yeah, it's fun stuff. It's fun stuff. You guys talked about like a resurgence in metal in the beginning of the podcast, and I kind of wanted to like pick your brains as to what you either think that's from, or what caused it, or you know, where the trajectory will go from it. Because I also agree that there is similar, not similar, but there is a rise in all types of metal. I think death metal is one of the ones that is becoming like a big resurgence. Obviously, anything heavy, sludgy, that's coming back, or not coming back, but that's becoming like a forefront sound as well. What do you guys think that's from?
I think it's just from like people. I mean, history always repeats itself, you know. And I was around in like the early '90s when death metal was at its peak, you know. I mean, Cannibal Corpse was in movies, for God's sake, you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
death metal, I mean, death metal was gigantic back in the early '90s, and you know, like I said, history always repeats itself. So I think people are just getting bored with the same old safe kind of music and just looking for something more extreme, you know. And you know, they delve into the black metal, death metal, thrash metal thing, you know.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, it's kind of like a cyclical thing, you know. It's, you remember when like the thrash revival, maybe 5 to 10 years ago, you know, all those bands started
Right.
kind of, you know, coming out in the same vein as that '80s thrash, you know, and now it's kind of the same with the old school death metal feel, and it kind of started off with the, you know, the younger bands, you know, doing the Swedish kind of sound with that guitar tone, and it kind of morphed into, you know, all sorts of different splintered off into different directions. But I think, yeah, it's I think the metal scene as a whole, you know, not even death metal or black metal, I think it's pretty healthy across the board. And, you know, even bands that aren't even remotely related to what we do, I think it helps the genre as a whole. You know, it can't hurt.
Agreed. Agreed. Um, yeah, that's I agree with you that there's a lot more crossover, and I don't mean to take the term crossover, but there is a lot more crossover from like hardcore music meeting death metal, and you have thrash meeting death metal, or I'm sorry, hardcore, and you have all these like just melting pots of like things that are considered crossover, or thrash crossover, or death metal crossover, to the point where you have a term, not like a term now, that's called old school death metal, and like it's just really funny that that's become a term recently, and I don't know, it's just strange.
I mean, it is, you know. I mean, but what would be considered new school death metal is the whole thing.
I don't know, maybe like a crossover band that has death metal influences and parts to
But
it,
but
but
but they're not really considered death metal. They're considered crossover or crossover death metal or deathcore. Have you? Would
yes,
that be
yeah.
considered new school death metal?
Deathcore, I don't know if that would be more in the death metal vibe. I think maybe it's just more like these blackened bands that are just bringing more death metal elements into it. I think bands are just becoming, again, more in line with the death metal aspects too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe the just the production style too plays into it. You know, when I think of new school death metal, I kind of think of just the oversampled and quantized, you know, drums and just the kind of the production techniques. Maybe I don't know.
What
Yeah,
product?
and where the new old school death metal bands, is that correct? Well, so the new old school death metal bands like have a shittier production. Well, oh, no, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. A raw production
Roaring,
rather
yes.
than a new school death metal band.
Do you guys, I mean, obviously, since you just put out a record, how how important is production to you guys, and how important is it to maintain closer to those old school tactics, or do you guys explore with the newer production and newer things that are going on, and how do you have to find a happy medium if you ever do?
There's a
I
happy
mean,
medium for sure. I mean,
yeah, it is a happy medium, but it's like there's a sound in our head that we are definitely looking for in a production that's not too clean and not too pristine and not perfect, but still there's still clarity and it's still super big and still super heavy. And I think this new record is a step in that direction.
Mm-hmm.
Rather than not to talk bad about our last records, but I find that this one is definitely more of what the vision is coming into reality of what we are supposed to sound like on record.
So basically, like technology is catching up with Goatwhore. Is that what you're kind of trying to say?
Or regressing. Yeah, I don't know. Or some or we just picked the right people to work with finally.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's a big part of it too, because there's a lot of things that I don't know, but that we can't articulate, but the people we work with know how to take that information and apply it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I can be
Yeah.
like me or Sammy can explain something in like the most non-technical, just meathead way, and the people that are paid to and know what they're doing know how to interpret that.
Yeah, because I'll be just like, it's not heavy enough.
It sounds
And
like shit you fix.
Yeah. It's like it's not heavy enough. And they'll be like, okay.
Interesting. So how did you guys get together? Because obviously this is it's a Metal Blade release again, and you guys released on Metal Blade prior. So when you say you had the right team around or the right people around this time, how did you guys fall in line with that team of people? And are you guys planning on using them again, even though you guys just put a record out, obviously? But do you guys think about that stuff for like the next cycle?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, we had Jared Pritchard that engineered the record. So the thing about Jared Pritchard is that he's mixed us for like 10 years. He was our live sound engineer. So he knows what to get out of us onto the recording. And then we had Kirk Ballou.
Mm-hmm.
May Satan bless Kirk Ballou's beautiful soul. Kirk Ballou, we had been wanting to work with Kirk for so long. We wanted to work with him on the last record, but the scheduling didn't work out. So when we got the opportunity to work with him for this last record, we were like, yes, please get him, nail him in, pencil him in. I don't want to lose him. I want him to work on this record, and he knocked it out of the park. But for this next record after this, I definitely want Kirk involved again. I mean, in a perfect world, to me, would be that we go back to the same studio that we did this record at, which is a studio in the country in Bogalusa, Louisiana. The studio is just great. It's awesome. And just get Kirk to do the whole record himself, because we couldn't get Kirk to do the engineering on the record because of the pandemic and shit.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't feel safe traveling and all that stuff just yet. So he was like, I'll mix the record, but I can't do anything else. And we're like, that's fine. So on the next one, I'd really like him to be more hands-on with the whole thing, and that would probably be pretty fucking massive, the final result.
What
I agree, man. That'd be great.
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I totally agree with Sammy. I think when it comes to this record, I think everything came out great every step of the way. But I think for the next one, man, Kurt had such a heavy hand in bringing out, you know, the best sound of these performances, and I think he would be a huge asset just being involved in the whole process next time.
Interesting. You mentioned it was a small or a country studio. What primarily is recorded at that studio in Louisiana, in the country?
Wait, say again?
You were saying that you recorded the album in a country studio out in Louisiana. What primarily is recorded in that studio most of the time?
Oh, it was the name of the studio is Studio in the Country.
Oh, okay.
That's the name of the studio, because it's like literally in the middle of fucking nowhere. But like their whole claim to fame was they recorded that Kansas record. What was the name of it, Zach?
They did like 4 of the classic Kansas records. Yeah, I think the studio has been around since like 76. It was built and finished. But tons of Cinderella did a record there.
Okay.
Marilyn Manson did some stuff there. Yeah, it's across the board, just a bunch of different stuff, whether it be rock or, you know,
right.
country
So
or whatever.
It's not it's not out of the blue that Goatwhore would come in and do an album there. It just sounded like when you originally said it was out in the country that you were just going to some, studio with great acoustics and some really, good stories within the wood. And I just was trying to find
That's
something
pretty
there.
much, yeah, it's pretty much what it is.
It's kind of, yeah, it's like when you walk in there, it's like walking into the 70s, basically.
Interesting. Cool.
Yeah, good vibe, man. It was a good working environment.
So how long were you guys sitting on the record? Obviously, because if Kurt couldn't come do some things for the pandemic, you obviously kind of had a
Fucking
list of it
sitting
done.
on the fucking record for fucking ever.
We had it
Yeah.
mixed and mastered and pretty much done for what, almost a year. And then, we had time to get artwork together and all that. But yeah, because we knew that the release was going to be later than we had hoped, just because vinyl,
Mhm.
everything being kind of delayed, and so many the Metal Blades release schedule was kind of hectic. So we kind of had some extra waiting to do. But yeah, man, but we just probably sat on it for not, if not a year, close to it, man.
Yeah, at least 8 months.
How hard is that?
It sucks.
Do you tell
It's
anybody?
like
Do you talk about it with anybody? Do you show anybody anything? Or?
we
Couple
would,
people.
yeah, we'd let like really close friends be like, hey, I got the new Goatwhore. And they'd be like, what? I was like, yeah, if you want to hear it, I'll let you hear a song if you give me $25.
Yeah, there was a span of a couple months in there where I didn't forget about it, but I just kind of like I had heard it so much, so I had to just step away.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Was it hard to start playing that stuff live since you guys, have had it in your head for so long and you hadn't played it live in front of people?
Well, we've only played one song from the record live so far because I think while we were on that Incantation tour, they released Born of Satan's Flesh. So we played that song live, but we didn't want to play any more songs from the record that weren't released because it's like, it's like you're going to see a movie. You don't want to give away too many spoilers before the movie's over.
I get you. Without giving a spoiler away, because this will come out in weeks' time. Um, you guys would then have to be going support to be announcing a tour to support the record to play more songs off the actual record in the next couple of weeks here or months, right?
Yes, we're planning on some stuff as we speak right now. I know we're going to Europe with Revocation,
Mm-hmm.
January and February, and then we're working on some very special stuff for right after that when we get back for early next year.
How hard is it to, because you guys have a career that spans over 20 years at this point, how hard is it to pick set lists? And how do you guys do that? Put them all in a bag and just pick randomly, or do you kind of like ask the fans or?
Well, you have the kind of ones that the fans want to hear,
Right.
but then around that you just kind of build songs that you actually want to play, But you have to be wary as well. You can't go too deep into the deep cuts because Zach will attest to this that we did a little run. It was earlier. It was like earlier this year, Zach, that we did that stuff with Frozen Soul.
That was last year, yeah, like last summer.
Yeah, so last summer we did a little run in Texas that was about a week long, and we had the fantastic idea to play a bunch of shit off our first record, like 5 songs off of our first record. And the thing about our first record is that it's very difficult to find. So all the fans were like, "Is this a new song? What are they playing?" Yeah, it was just we're like, yeah, we have to be more conscious of what we're doing with the live shows after that.
Seems like the band's going back to its roots on this new track.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. So you brought up like your Instagram, Sammy, about you originally started it because you wanted to show off your guitars, and I've been waiting to bring it up because you have, I don't know how many guitars hanging up behind you, which I can only imagine is part of your collection. So
That's only a couple of them.
that's what I was feeling. Something tells me you have a
Look,
whole other room.
it never ends. It
Or
never ends.
You either have a room or a storage unit somewhere with a bunch of guitars in. So how did this guitar collection start, and how big is it?
It started, man. It's been a work in progress for about 30 years or so. Because I started off collecting stuff, and I was just collecting like a lot of junk, basically, and not really getting the stuff that I actually wanted. So eventually, it just kind of snowballed into what it is. It's just finding really good deals and guitars that I actually want. It's not like I buy a guitar just to buy a guitar. Everything that I have here is all guitars that I like actually want them. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm a big fan of Randy Rhoads
Hmm.
ever since, and I have a massive collection of Jackson Randy Rhoads guitars. And just because I love Randy Rhoads. But it just kind of spiraled out of control at a certain point to where I was like, I was finding all these guitars for really good prices. And I was like, okay, I got this one. I'm going to take a break for like a couple of months before I buy another one. Then a week later, another one pop up for like the right price. And I'd just be like, fuck. So it's all about looking for the right deals. But yeah, I'm at about, I would say, between this and the rest of them that are in the other room, I would say maybe I'm like at about 43.
Interesting. Do you play them a lot? Do you play them, or do you keep some just for like keepsake? I just like that guitar, or it was someone else's guitar, so I don't want to own it, or don't touch it type thing, or do you play them all?
I have one guitar that I play very rarely because it's just so old and it's so valuable. And that still gets played every now and then. But yes, I play. I mean, they're not just hanging on the wall to look cool, I, I'll just fucking sit there and stare at them and play one for like 15 minutes. Put that one in the rack. Pick up another one. Play that one for a few minutes.
Is
Yeah,
that
I
how
play.
is that how inspiration comes from when you're writing songs? Is picking up guitars
Exactly.
like that?
It does, yes, because you never know what might be happening. You might pick up a guitar and you're like, I'm not really digging this one today. Let me pick up another one, and all of a sudden a riff pops out of nowhere.
Interesting, interesting.
So
Zach, you got
it's
go
a
ahead.
constant source of inspiration.
I get that. I get that. And of a vast money pit, obviously, it's probably
Yeah, yes.
very expensive hobby, unfortunately, or addiction, as you want to call it.
Yeah, however you look at it, yeah.
Zach, I would assume you have like just a bunch of drums in a room somewhere, 40 something drum sets. Is that what I'm hearing?
Not quite that many, but I think I'm down to 4 now. I've got my main touring kit in New Orleans stored away, and I've got 3 other Pearl kits in Phoenix right now. But yeah, I used to buy a new kit for touring. I'd use it for 2 or 3 years, and I'd sell it off to a fan or something, and then I'd just kind of be flipping drum kits basically, and just buy a new one off of that. But try to take care of my stuff, so it's not like when I sell it off, it's all beat up or anything. But
Right.
yeah, I like to. It's always nice to have a fresh set of drums.
That is interesting about flipping them at the end of the tour and whatnot, which is pretty cool because obviously, like a fan that is into the band and into you guys would think that's pretty valuable and want that. So I
Yeah,
see how
totally. And
that's
yeah,
pretty
if you
cool.
take care of your stuff, and I normally sell them for a pretty good price too. So yeah, it works out for everybody in the end.
Interesting. Um, One of the last questions I have about like the band per se is it's probably a question that I ask a lot of bands because it seems to be the one position that kind of seems to be rotating in a band. But like you guys have maintained a, a, the core lineup for a long period of time. But why do you think bass players always seem to just roam free and come and go in bands?
Well, I mean, the reason.
And not, I should probably clarify, not talking bad about bass players or anyone that has played bass in Goatwhore or any band for that matter, but it seems to be one of the rotating door roles.
Yeah, you're
I
right.
mean, if I think our bass player that was with us before, TA James Harvey, I think that if he wouldn't have started having children and stuff and like starting to be a responsible adult, he would probably still be with us. But he was having a kid and he wanted to do the right thing and he wanted to be a father to the kid, not just be on the road all the time and some kid not having a father. He did the right thing. There's no bad blood at all. I
Mm-hmm.
still talk to James all the time. He still writes stuff every once in a while for us. So it's all good. But he had to make a decision, you know, and I don't blame him for his decision, you know. I mean, the kid's a big responsibility, you
Of
know.
course. Yeah.
Yeah, there's everybody's got their own, personal factors or whatever else. But in our case, I mean, you know, yeah, nowadays there's no bad blood with any past members or bass players or anything. But yeah, it is kind of strange that that's aside from the drummer I replaced, it's aside from that, it's all been bass players as far as member switching.
Yeah.
Because I fucking hate him.
Is that something that's because in metal, bass for the most part is just kind of one of those instruments that sometimes doesn't even have to be in the band. Sometimes you get two pieces where it's just guitar player and drummer, or you get three pieces, two guitar players and drummer, and they say fuck it with the bass. It's in metal, it's very strange.
I guess you could go that way, but I still think the bass is very important, man, to have that low end filling out the situation. But yeah, some bands can pull it up. Yeah.
As a drummer, Zach, you should be speaking for your brothers, your low end brothers at all times.
Yeah, I'm sticking up for them, man.
Exactly. I mean, if you would go and listen to like Carnivore or Typo Negative without bass, it would definitely not have the same effect. You know?
True.
At first, I thought you said Corn or something, and I was like, "Yeah, you can't listen to Corn without the bass." I agree.
I think I actually would listen to Corn if they didn't have a bass player.
I would listen to Corn if the bass player, the guitar players, the drummers, and the singer quit.
Yeah, I'm not a big Corn fan after the first couple albums. I'm not gonna.
I'm just kidding. I love Corn, man. They're great.
I've never seen them live. That's one of the bands I've never seen live somehow in the whole 30 plus years I've been listening to heavy stuff. But
yeah, I've never seen Corn live either.
Weird. I didn't see that coming.
Zach's sitting there very quiet.
I've seen him a few times. Yeah.
Interesting.
I mean, sometimes by choice, sometimes not by choice. I don't know.
Oh wait, I did almost hear them. I heard them. I didn't see them. I was being arrested while they were playing. But anyway, that's a story for a different scenario.
Oh well, I mean, we could definitely jump into that story if you want to jump into it.
No, I was getting arrested while Korn was playing, so I did get to see them, but I did hear them.
I understand why you don't want to hear them or have anything to do with them because it brings back traumatic memories.
Exactly.
I can get that. We can move on from it. So outside of Goatwhore and black and death metal and sludge metal and all sorts of stuff, what does Sammy get into and what does Zach get into? What are the hobbies outside of collecting guitars and doing other things? What do we got?
That's it.
I kind of saw that. I kind of had a feeling that would be.
This is it. Thing. Guitars, heavy metal, and cats. That's it.
Cats,
so that's the extent of it.
Zach?
Yeah, for me, man, it's should I do it on my downtime? It's either has to do with this, which is playing drums, practicing drums, or just trying to stay fit for to be healthy and to be healthy on the road, to be a good drummer on the road and stuff. It all kind of fits into one little thing. But yeah, going to shows, playing shows, aside from Goatwhore, staying involved with music as much as I can, and that's about it, man.
You attend, what kind of shows do you attend outside of your own, obviously? Do you have, are they bigger shows, local shows, independent shows, or?
Well, recently, a couple weeks ago, saw Merciful Fate midnight in Creator, so that was a big one. Then a couple days later was Wasp, man. It was like the most heaviest weekend I can remember in a while. It was like 86 came back around. It was the year I was born, so it was good to be an adult in 86.
Yeah. That's interesting. What all do you guys listen to outside of like heavy stuff? Where do you get? Is it just heavy stuff? Sammy's over here shaking his head like
that's it.
I don't have any bandwidth or bullshit for anything else.
Just heavy evil shit for me. Thank you. That's all.
Interesting. So
yeah, everything.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Zach.
Yeah, everything's pretty much for me at least is based in rock. You know, it has some sort of relation to rock and roll. You know, that's about it.
Yeah, like the lightest thing I'll listen to is Danzig. That's
Okay.
it.
Okay. How did you so where did that all start for you, Sam? Like where does the whole like passion and love for heavy just come from?
Oh man, it started with Kiss. It's all Kiss's fault.
That seems to be a ringing thing all the time. Like when I speak to bands that have been around for a long period of time, it's always going back to Kiss, man.
Yeah, man, it was just a kid, just totally. I was very fortunate, that I was born in that age to where I was like a really young kid, right when Kiss Mania like took over the world. And I was like maybe 9 or 10 years old. It was just Kiss everything. And it just kind of expanded from that, to where I grew up and I was like, there's got to be more to life than Kiss. What else do we have? Oh, wait, AC/DC. That's cool. That sounds great. Oh, Black Sabbath, even better. Then we spiraled into Judas Priest and Iron Maiden and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Then the whole thrash metal thing came about and got involved in that. And always looking to be more extreme, I found the death metal scene and the black metal scene. And, you know, it just a never ending quest to find the heaviest music I can listen to.
And obviously that does play into the sound of Goatwhore at some point over the years. I would assume you find heavier, more unique sounds, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, 5 years ago. And I'm assuming, subconsciously or not subconsciously, those parts make their way into the new stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. For sure.
What is a newer band that a heavy band, obviously, because that we're talking to you now. How, what is a newer band that you're super into that's been around for like less than 5 years or so? Or do you have any bands like that?
I'm super into Cults Des Ghouls. That band is just a band that I can't stop listening to. There's a newer band. I think they put out a record in 2019, but they have a new record out this year called Noctum.
Mm-hmm.
And the release they put out in 2019 was called the Black Consecration. That album is fucking fantastic. Their new record, I haven't gotten the chance to hear the whole thing all the way through, but the songs that I heard are great. Trying to think of other bands that have come out. There's another band that I'm really into that's called Involtation.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like a solo guy out of Ohio somewhere. That's really sick shit.
Interesting. It's so weird how like just one random guy making music in his house.
Yeah,
and,
and it's
and
and it's
you're in
just
here like I can't stop listening to it.
it's good stuff, man. It's
Yeah.
nasty.
Zach, what about you? What are you listening to these days that inspires you or that you like to listen to?
Man, a constant for me seems like since forever. It's just Motorhead, man. There's so much, just a wealth of material that every week I could have a new favorite or different favorite Motorhead record. You know what I mean? So that's how it seems to always be a constant. Sabbath too, of course, but aside from that, newer bands, Vitriol, death metal band from Portland, just vicious, man, just really pissed off, aggressive. And then another band from Portland, totally kind of opposite vibe wise, Unto Others, man. I really, really dig that band and just really good, catchy tunes. And once you're kind of let off your steam, listen to Vitriol, man, you can put some of that on and kind of even things out a bit. But
I guess
there's always some new stuff, man. I'm always trying to at least give things more of a chance than I maybe used to.
Yeah, same. I recently fell into in the last couple of days. I fell into a band, Big Black. I think it's Big Black.
Oh, is that yeah.
That old like experimental noise band, right?
Yeah, Big Black, the three-piece there. I don't know why it's the female-fronted vocals and the two guitar players and a drummer on that one, which I'm certain they have some kind of effect to do bass. But yeah, I've been listening to their 10-minute long weird songs for the past like 3 days straight, just constantly in the headphones here. So I guess I've entered my post metal phase, as my editor likes to call it. But But yeah,
Is
all
that
right.
is that Steve Albini's old band?
Oh my God, you're putting me on the spot here, and I don't
Was?
know.
Did Steve Albini play in Big Black, or was that Shellac?
Am I thinking of? Maybe I'm thinking of a different. Let me double
Okay.
check really quick. Big Brave. Sorry, Big
Okay.
Ah,
Big Brave. That's who I've been listening to. And
ah.
they had a Southern Lord and Thrill Jockey release here recently, and yeah, I've been listening to them, and it's very, I don't know, weird.
Right on. Yeah, it's always good to pick up some new stuff along the way.
Yeah, man.
It's not my wheelhouse, but here we are. I'm stuck listening to it because it's like a weird version of Bjork, and I don't know, fucking
There you
some
go,
weird
man.
shit. Well, I don't want to keep you guys too much longer, and we had a hurricane here today, so I'm gonna.
Oh shit.
Yeah, it's kind of simmered down a little bit. It hit hard this morning, I guess, but I was asleep, so.
Damn, November hurricanes, man. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, and I mean, we could talk hurricanes. Obviously, you guys are the band's based in Louisiana, know a little something about it. But so does Florida. It's nothing big. It's every day,
Yeah.
every other day. It feels like we have thunderstorms, so it's not
Yeah.
too far off. But congratulations on the new album and the success it is receiving, and obviously,
Thank
good
you.
luck with the upcoming tours. You're going to Europe and stuff like that, and obviously, I'm sure 2023 we'll see a lot of Goatwhore in the future. I was really hoping that Sammy, you would have some kind of weird, like I like to play the claw games and shop at Target Cannibal Corpse type story, and then we could go down a weird, nerdy pathway. But I get it. It's metal
No,
all the way
man.
through and through. I get it. I understand it.
It's what I do. You cut me and solder comes out of my veins,
It's what though? It's probably good to have some people still based in it, just fully based in it, and we need that. But we also need like the corpse grinder, just weird left curve or a curveballs with some weird shit,
Yeah,
So
I mean, whatever tickles your fancy,
I get it.
I
I
can-
get it.
I can attest, man. It's all metal all the time with that dude. So
Cool. Well, do you want to give out your guys' personal Instagrams or anything like that? Because obviously we'll link the band stuff. But I know Sammy, you said you do a lot of like guitar stuff, and you show your personal stuff. And Zach wants to let everybody know what he's having for lunch. So where can they follow you personally at to get more information?
Yeah, on Instagram, I'm just at Sammy Pierre Duet, all one word.
I believe mine's Hole in the FKN Sky on Instagram. So yeah, come say
Cool.
hi.
Yeah.
Well,
Give me a follow. You get to see my cats and my guitars.
yeah.
He's got some sweet cats, man.
Yeah, because before we get out of here, I want to bring up the cats because I totally forgot about when you mentioned it. But how many cats do you have?
I have two.
Okay. What kind? Are they just stray kind of cats, or do you have?
No, one of them's a Maine Coon and one's part Maine Coon, part some other like British short hair or something.
Interesting.
They're both really big and really fluffy.
Are they your only cats, or have you had cats your entire life?
I've had cats my entire life. Absolutely. The cats are our guardians.
Yeah.
Well, follow the Egyptians. They know what they're talking about.
Of course.
Cats,
Yeah.
cats are Cats are worshipped as guardians.
Yeah, that's true. They do a lot of imagery with cats for sure. Well, I was thinking about getting a cat. I just don't know what kind of cat to get. Do I rescue a cat, or do I want to get like a unique kind of cat?
Rescue, man, rescue. Highly support rescues.
As well. That's why I even mentioned it. But I haven't gotten a cat yet, so there's that.
They make your day a little bit brighter.
I have a dog, but she's getting up there in age. But they're separate. There's two different kinds of things. I get it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Sammy, Zach, I appreciate your time. Again, congratulations on the new album. Congratulations on the Billboard success and stuff. And hopefully we'll see a lot more of you guys in 2023.
I'm sure
Definitely,
you
man.
will. Thanks
Thanks
you for having us,
man. Appreciate it.
Have a good one.
You too.